Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Steve, who is going to be a character coming to RTS on the advanced token wheel. If we see Steve in the Mythic era, we have had one before. His name was Skeleton Steve, and that's why this one can be called Steve. Visually, looks kind of interesting. I'm not really sure what we're seeing here. Like maybe got like some kind of life vest on. Maybe it looked like a lifeguard. Quite I don't know, quite aquatic right now. And I'm not sure what this weapon is. It looks like maybe like a tin of paint as a mace. I don't know. It's a really strange weapon, honestly. Very strange indeed. It swings around as well, kind of crazy. So visually, yeah. I mean, we've seen Steve before in the previous eras, in the current era. But yeah, it looks pretty interesting. On the left-hand side, you can see he has got actually like the kind of medic sign on his chest, on the shirt. And he's got a whistle. Maybe he is a lifeguard? Maybe he is a lifeguard. I'm not 100% certain. Maybe he's like Coast Guard or something like that. But the visuals look really cool. I like Steve. I think his OG version, was he a lifeguard? He had some sort of like net. I don't know. We'll check out his stats though. At level 1,440, limit break 3. He has got 35,314 attack, 26,485 defense, and 26,485 HP. He is a strong character. He is going to be a medic with that medic icon on his shirt. Gold Mythic, of course. And he is going to be joining the Savior's Allegiance. So first up, we're going to check out Steve's Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Revival Tour. It's a 66 AP cost rush, so more of an attack team rush at that speed. He is more attack stat balanced on his actual stats. And if we look at it, it says revive one Savior's Allegiance teammate with 100% of their max HP, revive one teammate with 50% of their max HP, make 2 attacks for 250% damage to up to 2 enemies, plus 1 attack for each Savior's Allegiance teammate. So this is actually kind of interesting. Potentially can revive up to 2. Guaranteed to revive 1, but if there's a Savior's teammate on the team as well, that teammate will be revived as well, or as a priority. So for instance, if there is a Savior's teammate down, they should always be the one that gets revived with the first part of this, and then there'll be a second teammate revived if there is one available. 250% twice is not massive damage, but the fact that he can do this plus 1 attack for each Savior's Allegiance teammate, so if you had, let's say, 2, 3, or even a full 5 team setup for, let's say, Faction Assault, this should hit 7 times on a 5 team setup. I'm not sure if he counts as his own teammate. So if it's just Steve, is this a 3 hit or is it just a 2 hit? Because it does say teammate, but sometimes it does include the character himself. Let's check it out. Okay, so here we have the rush of Steve up right now. We're going to do the Adrenaline Rush. It should do 2 attacks, but we're just seeing if it does 3 because Steve himself is a Savior, so we just have to count them. We're going to see 1 attack come off, then 2, and then 3. And I think that'll be it. So he always will do an extra plus 1 because Steve is a Savior. If we build a full Savior's team, this is going to drastically change how many attacks he does. So here we go again, and this time we're going to attack with Steve. I think it should do 7 attacks. I'm not 100% certain, if I'm honest. We'll just do the Adrenaline Rush. We have got 5 Saviors in this team. We'll just count the attacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it is going to be pretty random attacks. The first one is obviously going to be the character that you select, and the second character is just going to be a random character. Now, obviously, you have 7 attempts to apply like debuffs on this. I had stun on attack, and I managed to apply this. I also can hold certain weapons in my hands. He is a strong character. I could potentially be ransacking with every single attack too. So, like heavy buff defense teams, I can just strip them, strip the buffs down quite quickly. Now, if we look at the upgrades, we can see at grade 2, it gets an upgrade where you revive one teammate with 50% of their max HP. Initially, it will just be a Savior's Allegiance revive, but then at grade 2, it gets the extra revive added on. Very early on, just 1 copy required. At grade 4, 1 copy as well. It would change it from being a single hit attack to actually attacking 2 separate targets. So it'll be 2 enemies. At LB1, it'll be plus 100% damage. So it'll go from 150% damage per hit to 250%. And then at LB3, you'll get the upgrade where it'll be plus 1 attack for each Savior's Allegiance teammate. And this, regardless of whether you use Savior's teammates or not, will always give you 1 extra attack, just because obviously, like we proved before, Steve is counted as one of those teammates, and that will always add another attack. And it should always go to the character that you initially select. So if you select a character, that character will get attacked once, then the next attack will attack a random other character, and then it'll come back to the initial selected character and attack at them again. And that's if Steve's there. So the actual initial selected character should always get attacked either the same amount as the secondary character or plus 1, which is decent. At least you have reasonable control on which character is getting potentially controlled with stun on attack, so on and so forth, or like heavy ransacked. You know, that is going to be quite important. Now, you can build him full support mode, where that damage will not be too effective, and then it will not trigger anything too heavily when it comes to things like counter damage, reflect damage, that sort of thing. In other parts of his kit, namely his specialist skill, he does get bonuses from hitting crits. So the more attacks he does, all of these attacks can crit, the more likeliness he has of actually proccing that specialist skill, which is beneficial for the attack team regardless of what allegiance they're in. Now, next up is going to be the signature move, and it is called Cooperative Bonus. Its initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. Make a critical attack against an enemy for 200% damage. All Savior's Allegiance teammates get 30% counter damage reduction for each Savior's Allegiance teammate for 1 turn. This is kind of interesting. This does mean if you do have at least 4 Savior's characters on an attack team, all 4 of those Savior's teammates would get 100% counter damage reduction, and then you could have the last character being someone like Heng Yen, who already has that inbuilt into his kit initially, and you wouldn't need anything like camouflage. Now, can you build a team with that many Saviors right now? I think it'll be a bit more difficult. We have had John get released, who is obviously a bit more up to par, but maybe we have more Saviors on the way. This could be the first of, you know, a little trickle of Saviors to come into the game. And I'm actually kind of surprised Steve is a Savior. I don't think he was one before, but he's going to fit into that allegiance by the looks of things. Okay, so we're going to start the fight, and this time we have got a Payback on the defense team. I'm just going to set things up with Steve's signature move, and you can see all the Saviors on my team have 100% counter damage reduction now. This is because there are 4 Saviors here, and it would be 30% per Savior, maxing out, capping out a 100% reduction. And we have got Heng Yen on this team, and he gets 100% reduction himself in his own kit. And then, obviously, when I do the signature move on the character here, I will hit him twice, and it actually hit the same characters both times. Normally, the second hit would take down John and Steve. The Guardian Shields did protect them the first time around, but the 100% counter damage reduction protected them the second time around. This is good if you've got multiple Paybacks in the same team. Obviously, Heng Yen could take out one and then go to a second one, and then obviously it's problematic for, you know, the teammates that have had the Guardian Shields initially removed. Now, it does only last for 1 turn, so you've got to set this up on the turn that you actually want to nuke Paybacks. There's no point just doing it for the sake of it unless you're not really too bothered about Paybacks on the defense team. Now, looking at Steve's upgrades on the signature move, you can see at grade 3 it gets an upgrade where all Savior's Allegiance teammates get 15% counter damage reduction for each Savior's Allegiance teammate for 1 turn. This is obviously not really going to be high enough to get that 100%. The real 100% is a requirement. But you get that upgrade to 30% counter damage reduction per Savior's teammate at grade 5. And then at Limit Break 2, it gets a turn 1 starting cooldown. Now, this turn 1 starting cooldown isn't necessarily very important unless you have a turn 1 nuke. If you have a turn 1 nuke who can protect themselves against counter damage, then obviously it's quite important. But you could have the Heng Yen position there taken up by someone like Easter Eva, who actually protects herself against these characters like Peacekeeper and stuff, because she's got a Guardian Shield. She can do extra damage against tanks. She'll wipe that character. The teammates will be in trouble. Like I said, same sort of issue when it comes to the rush. Are there enough characters on your Savior's Allegiance right now to make this actually viable, because you would need 4, including Steve, to get this up to 100% counter damage reduction. And like I've talked about in previous streams and videos, anything below 100% counter damage reduction just isn't very good, except on Heng Yen to a certain extent, which we'll cover in a future video on streams and stuff. But other than that, it's pretty much 100% is the way you have to go if you actually want it to be in any way effective. Now, you did see, because it's a guaranteed critical hit on Steve's signature move here, it did trigger his specialist skill. This could potentially also trigger weapons. I don't think there are actually any weapons that trigger off of crits on strong characters. I know there are pretty much for every other trait, which is actually kind of strange. Strong characters maybe need one of those when critting, get potential things happen, be it control, so on and so forth. We'll see what happens there, but that could work in Steve's hands. But for now, it's just a critical attack. It's going to obviously trigger that specialist skill. It's going to give a little bit more of like a shield effectively when it comes to bonus HP because of that specialist skill, which we will look at a little bit later, which is pretty decent. So the signature move is okay. It does require heavy amounts of saviors to actually, take advantage of that counter damage reduction. I think it comes more down to the saviors that are due to come out to make this like more the current level of the game. Some of these old saviors are just not really rocking it at the moment, I'm going to be honest. Now in Faction Assault, I don't think this is going to make any difference because I don't think there's any reflect on any of the bosses, thank goodness. So yeah, it's not going to make any difference there. But I think there is one maybe side character in Faction Assault that does have Bide. That's pretty much it. Now before we move on to Steve's mythic abilities, we are of course going to be doing a giveaway because Steve is an advanced token character. We're going to be doing an advanced token giveaway. 10,000 advanced tokens to one lucky winner. All you have to do is type down in the chat the word lifeguard. I'm not actually sure if he's a lifeguard or a coast guard, but the lifeguard is going to be the word to actually enter the giveaway. Make it as part of a sentence so YouTube doesn't spam your comment. Best of luck if you enter. Now back to the video. Now here are Steve's mythic abilities. These are the passives, of course. He is going to be a medic, so he's going to get Spirit, where 20% of all healing performed by this fighter also granted as bonus HP. He isn't going to heal characters too much except on that revive. I think the majority of stuff that he does is bonus HP off of his own specialist skill, so yeah, not amazing when it comes to Spirit. Maybe it would have been nicer if he was a support character because he attacks so many times on that rush to just, maybe not trigger weapon effects as often. Next up is Shield Up at the start of each wave. 100% chance all teammates get Guardian Shield. You kind of saw it in the clips before. I couldn't hide it. It was very hard to do much about that. But you saw Guardian Shields everywhere. Now this is going to be useful on attack teams. Just give you a bit more survivability. But while Steve hasn't got good defense team stat balance, if he's putting a Guardian Shield up on the entire team and he's in a team with someone like Circuit, he could potentially be useful on a defense team where Circuit is going to be basically bringing lots of Halo on the entire team, and then the Guardian Shields is just going to be that added layer, basically of survivability, making it even harder to take down characters and the entire team on turn 1. So yeah, pretty decent on the Guardian Shields. They only proc at the beginning of the fight. After that, they're gone once they're removed. Next up is Kneecapped. When performing this fighter's specialist skill, 60% chance a random enemy gets minus 50% defense for 2 turns. This is actually kind of nice in terms of setting it up. He can potentially maybe make this proc 7 times on his Adrenaline Rush. That is actually going to be kind of nuts. I'll try and equip him with a crit weapon and see how many times we can make this proc when it comes to the Adrenaline Rush. That'd be kind of funny. And then the last passive is called Future Proof. When attacking an enemy with a negative status effect, a random teammate gets 100% Halo for 2 turns. So he could potentially get Halo on his entire attack team, or maybe even defense team, if you obviously attack characters with negative effects. And you can set up negative effects quite easily. You could have, the weapon that does heal reduction, and that's a negative effect on everyone. So as long as he attacks that character, he will obviously give a random teammate Halo for 2 turns. So let's check this out. We're going to be going for Kneecapped and Future Proof mainly on this little test. Okay, so we're going to attack here. We have got Steve's signature move. I'm going to use it against someone who has negative status effects. We can see the leader here has got plenty, and this means that I should get 100% Halo on one of my teammates. It's a guaranteed crit on this signature move. Now, ideally, you do the signature move first, and then a nuke would come in. This is just to show you how it works, basically, when it comes to the effects on the passives. And you can see that we actually got the crit hit resisted, so that's not going to be good for when it comes to the 50% defense down. But we did get Halo on Rhodey, and it looks like she needs it. Look at that, she's very low HP. I'm going to do another attack. We're going to get another crit in, or we're just going to get another attack in. And it's 100% Halo has now gone on to John. So this is actually pretty decent. I'll just do some basic attacks here. And now with the Adrenaline Rush of Steve, what we should get is a bunch of attacks off. I'll try and remove these Guardian Shields, because we don't want to hit these Guardian Shields. Let's see if we can see someone with a negative status effect. I can just apply them, actually. We can just do Mia. Mia may be a decent combo. So now we're at least going to get 4 hits, I think, against negative status effects. So I should have every single teammate potentially with Halo. I think the 2-turn Halo can go over John's 1-turn. But we'll see what happens. Attacking here. 1 attack, 2 attacks, 3 attacks, 4 attacks, 5 attacks, 6 attacks, 7 attacks. Now you can see 50% defense down on any character is because of the 60% crit chance. You know, when I hit a crit, it has a 60% chance of the defense down. These 2 characters here have that, and my entire team has Halo. This is very nice indeed, but it could, like I say, it could have some niche potential on a defense team if you can get Steve to rush quick enough. But you'd maybe have to have quite a lot of Saviors teammates as well. I think there are slightly more Saviors teammates recently. I think, was there Carson? So there maybe is some team up there. We'll have to see. So some quite epic amounts of support there. Defense down, Halo, lots of survivability. The procs on a specialist skill, which we will look at a bit later, basically increasing survivability too. He's going to need some heavy damage dealers on his team, but you potentially could put him into a team that is more effect based. You know, John is a savior and he has got effects. He's got the infection based attack. So obviously if you put an infection based attack team up, they could work together. Steve just increases the survivability and just keeps everyone rolling. Potentially could put like the trauma weapon on him if you so wish, if you wanted to keep it that way. So, you know, there is some options. I wouldn't necessarily say some of them are better than others, but I think he is definitely a pretty decent support character. Gearing him fully towards attack, I mean, he will do maybe a bit of damage. He was hitting for like reasonable amounts of damage there, to be fair. But yeah, I think there are just other better damage dealers. So I think there are damage dealers that are actually geared towards absolutely nuking as a damage dealer. Steve isn't that guy, but he is definitely geared towards being a support character, which is quite nice. If we look at his stats here, you can see at grade 1, on the upgrades, he'll get Shields Up Part 1, where at the start of each wave, 50% chance all teammates get Guardian Shield. At grade 2, he gets Spirit Part 1, where 10% of all healing performed by this fighter also granted as bonus HP. That's only going to work on those Adrenaline Rush, unless he had the weapon from War of Champions that was a strong weapon that healed characters. I think it would also give bonus HP on that. At grade 3, you can see that he's going to get Shields Up Part 2, and it would be 100% chance all teammates get Guardian Shield at the beginning of the wave. This is really important on the attack teams, just nice. Again, on defense teams, it's just going to be maybe niche defense team character. Grade 4, you're going to get the first half of Kneecapped. When performing this character's specialist skill, 60% chance a random enemy gets 25% defense down for 2 turns. So it's still going to be the same chance to occur, just not as strong. Again, I like that. Future Proof Part 1 is going to be at grade 5. When attacking an enemy with a random negative status effect, a random teammate gets 50% Halo for 2 turns. Again, it's guaranteed to occur. The Halo just isn't as strong. This is, again, is good. Because he's a support character, you don't necessarily have to get him to the Titanic grades. He could potentially be a grade 5 or a limit break 1. And you could utilize just the fact that this is guaranteed to happen, just not as powerful as if you completely maxed him. So maybe a bit of accessibility here if you did kind of see some utility for this character but couldn't get the character to LB3. However, if you can get this character into the limit breaks, we have of course got some limit break upgrades on the passives too. Spirit 2 comes in, making it 20% of all healing performed granted as bonus HP. Limit Break to his Kneecap 2, making it 60% chance still, but it goes up to 50% defense down for 2 turns when he performs the specialist skill. And then at Limit Break 3, when attacking an enemy with a negative status effect, a random teammate gets 50% Halo for 2 turns. This stacks with the first half, making it 100% Halo. And Halo percentage basically means how much HP they have. So if they have 100% Halo, when they get revived from the Halo, they're at 100% HP. This is quite beneficial for attack teams because their HP is quite low. It's actually kind of nuts for defense teams because their HP is really high. So having 100% Halo on a defense team is really, really strong. So I like the passives a lot here. Have definitely rounded his character out quite nicely. He is a very decent support character. You are going to have other characters that are going to get the takedowns on those attack teams. Like I said, Steve is not that reliable when it comes to that part of things, but you generally do need a good safety net on attack teams, and Steve is a great safety net. Revives, some levels of sustain. Survivability is going to be pretty high with Steve on the team, and also the capability of actually being able to do more damage potentially because of the defense down. Now still, I'm going to mention it again, is he potentially viable for a defense team? Nothing stops him from being used because nothing has been said so far where it's like on attack team. So everything you've seen so far can be used on defense. Now you've seen it proccing and being referenced in large parts of this kit, and it is going to be the specialist skill. It is Combat Medic. When this fighter performs a critical attack, all teammates get 25% of this fighter's attack as bonus HP. This is quite nice, just again, on attack teams, most characters only have like 20k, 25k HP, and then when they get a bit of actual Combat Medic bonus HP, this is going to be nice. 25% of this fighter's attack as bonus HP. If he's got 100k, he's maxing out everyone's bonus HP off of the first turn signature move. It's actually pretty decent for an attack team. Heavy survivability, dogpiling is real. If you use an effect-based attack team, maybe you're going to build it more HP-based. Again, it's just going to increase survivability. It's not going to be too terrible. On defense, it isn't as great because you're going to build him more defensive. His attack stat is not going to be as high. Let's just say he had 40,000. He'd do 10,000 bonus HP to characters that have like 60 to 70,000 base HP. It's not going to be as effective on a defense team. But if that adrenaline rush went off, he could effectively proc it 3 times, +1 for every savior. And like I said, I think there's Carson that potentially can team up with him. So yeah, some potential there for defense teams. I think there's going to be some crazy guy who's going to try and use this guy on defense. I don't think it's going to be impossible, especially with the team up with Circuit. So yeah, specialist skill, Combat Medic is nice, but I see it as more of an attack team specialist skill myself. Now, Steve does have an attached weapon, and we can finally find out what it is. It's called Steve's Chlorine Dispenser Flail. So it's a chlorine dispenser there, apparently. I saw it as a tin of paint on the end of a flail. That's interesting. And it's got 40% attack, 40% HP, infect on hit when attacking, 60% chance to apply 50% infection to the enemy for 2 turns, and in the last slot is Ransack, attacks still 2 positive effects on the enemy you hit. This basically, in my mind, sets him up for a John Saviors duo as a minimum, and potentially some more Saviors characters coming out down the line. You can obviously have Rhodey on that team as well, if you want to just, slow burns teams as well if the infection is not rolling. So yeah, it's definitely some potential here. I think the infection is quite nice. 60% chance to apply. Is going to be on every single attack of that adrenaline rush. I was not utilizing this weapon on those hits. Obviously, I try to save some of the bits until later on in the video if I can. But yeah, the weapon actually looks pretty decent. Now, some people might see the 40% attack and 40% HP and be like, this isn't very good. This is to give you the option to make him a defense team character or an attack team character with this weapon. So you could see this as more of a defense team potential and just go with 30% defense and raise the HP to 50, or you could see this more of an attack team potential and give him AP on attack and then raise the attack up to 50. So you've got your options. You can obviously reset at any point and it'll come back to this point, which is of base. So that is a little look at Steve, who is going to be coming to the game, like I said, as an advanced token wheel character. And it is worth mentioning again with that weapon, it has suddenly increased Steve's takedown potential. The infection is actually pretty decent. And like I said, teamed up with someone like John, it could be nice. Remember, John does heal reduction off of turn 1 if characters have infection, and he applies infection himself. So he could potentially do heal reduction on the character that gets the infection from Steve And while it isn't a massive infection, they'd have the heal reduction on them, so it'd be harder for them to obviously recover from that. So yeah, definitely some synergy there between John and Steve. Maybe some more saviors to come out. We'll have to stay tuned for that. But if they get that, I think they need maybe like a third. They need a third solid savior, and then you've got that trio team, and then you could potentially bring in the roadie if you want to. You could potentially bring in someone else if you wanted to. But so far, Steve and John team up looks pretty decent. And we have a very unique weapon in Steve, for sure. I wasn't actually quite sure what was going on with that weapon, but chlorine dispenser, apparently. Chlorine dispenser. It's an interesting one. I've never seen one like that. But do tell me your thoughts on Gold Mythic Steve. If you enter the giveaway, best of luck. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.